Hi, everyone.
Hello there.
We're in the Pure Worship book. We're still talking about the temple measurements. We're at the subheading on page 154, What Ezekiel's Vision Teaches Us Today. Can we be sure that Ezekiel's temple vision applies to us today? Yes, recall the similarity between Ezekiel's vision of God's sacred house on a very high mountain, and Isaiah's prophecy that the mountain of the Lord Jehovah would be firmly established above the top of the mountains. Isaiah specifically tells us that his prophecy will see fulfillment during the final part of the days, or the last days. They reference Ezekiel 42, Isaiah 2, 2-4, and Micah 4, 1-4. These prophecies apply to the time in the last days ever since 1919, when pure worship is lifted up, restored, as if placed on a lofty mountain.
Most decidedly, then, Ezekiel's vision does apply to pure worship today. Much as it benefited from the Jewish exiles in ancient times, this vision benefits us today in two ways. One, it provides practical lessons about how we can uphold Jehovah's standards for pure worship. And two, it gives prophetic reassurances of the restoration of pure worship and of Jehovah's blessings. What can we say except self-fulfilling prophecy?
Yeah.
How do we prove that we're in the last days? Well, we're here, and we're pure worshipers.
Yeah.
We've made the point repeatedly throughout this analysis of the book that, first of all, the concept of pure worship is not in the Old Testament. So using all these passages from the prophets and from Ezekiel to show that you are fulfilling no, pure worship will not be restored until that side of the Lord's second coming.
Yeah. Even what they do use from the scripture quotation, like the ones they cite, they don't give you the full picture.
No, they
don't read the whole passage. They read the portion that you're familiar with.
Yeah.
That seems like it can apply to you.
But are they fulfilling Ezekiel's prophecy and the other prophecies of the Old Testament about the restoration of worship, Jehovah's worship on this earth? No, not until Jehovah actually arrives in person, which is the overall message of this book. When you get to the latter chapters of Ezekiel, Jehovah himself is there. That's the name of the city where he's going to reign. Mm-hmm. That's the very last thought of the book of Ezekiel. So you have to put all of this in context. So yes, I can agree that you're fulfilling prophecy, but you're not fulfilling pure worship prophecies because they're on the other side of Yahweh's arrival. And you're also not fulfilling the Matthew 24 that you gloriously think applies to you, which is, of course, we're the only ones preaching the good news of the kingdom. You are fulfilling Matthew 24, however, only it's verses 11, 12, and 24, where we read Jesus' warning is against false prophets. So the profusion of false prophets and false Christs in the last days, also the fact that they would have the impact of the love of the many cooling off. Well, we see that in the XJW community, that most of the people who leave the Watchtower have been hardened against the true worship of God by the experience they had in a cult.
And I think they leave thinking they know the Bible.
Yeah.
But they don't know it in context. And it changes the picture completely.
So the profusion of false prophets and false Christs is only having the ultimate result of estranging more people from the true God and from the Bible and from the true Christ.
Yeah.
But their abuse of the text, that's the part that really staggers me here. Mm-hmm. They cite Isaiah 2, 2-4, and as usual leave out verse 1. Mm-hmm. And we can also say the very first verse of Isaiah they leave out, which is that these things are concerning Judah and Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand why you left that one out. But in Micah 4, well, if you continue to read beyond the verses they give you, which are 1-4, you see the problem.
Yeah, yeah. So
let's
you
do
want
that.
Me to read that?
Yeah, but this is Micah 4, verses 1-4, and we'll read right past where they tell us to leave off.
Okay.
This is from the New World Translation, right?
In the final part of the days, the mountain of the house of Jehovah will become firmly established above the top of the mountains, and it will be raised up above the hills, and to it peoples will stream, and many nations will go and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of Jehovah, to the house of the God of Jacob. He will instruct us about his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For law will go out of Zion, and the word of Jehovah out of Jerusalem. He will render judgment among many peoples, and set matters straight respecting mighty nations far away. They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning shears. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, nor will they learn war any more. They will sit, each one under his vine and under his fig tree, and no one will make them afraid. So that's a little bit more. For the mouth of Jehovah of armies has spoken. That's verse 1 to 4. So some of it's very familiar, but certain words you don't think about. The house of the God of Jacob, and law going out of Zion, the word of Jehovah out of Jerusalem.
And strong nations far away. Far away from where?
Yeah. So we don't focus on that part of it, but certain parts of it we focus on that may give you the impression it's about us going to God's organization and not being war.
So the location is a very big problem, even in the 4 verses they select. It's mentioned more than once.
Yeah.
And the people more than once. But when you get to verses 5 through 8, I think the case falls apart for the idea that pure worship is to be restored before Jehovah rules on this earth.
Okay. For all the peoples will walk, each in the name of its God. But we will walk in the name of Jehovah, our God, forever and ever. In that day, declares Jehovah, I will gather the one who was limping and collect together the dispersed ones, along with those I treated harshly. I will make the one who was limping a remnant, and the one far removed a mighty nation. And Jehovah will rule as king over them in Mount Zion, from now on and forever. As for you, O tower of the flock, the mound of the daughter of Zion, to you it will come. Yes, the first dominion will come, the kingdom belonging to the daughter of Jerusalem. Yeah, you know why they don't go any further.
Well, verse 5 has been fulfilled already in the history of Israel. They are still walking in the name of their ancestral God, the God of the Old Testament, whereas all their neighbors, some of whom conquered them, like Babylon and Assyria, Edom and Moab, and you keep going on, all those nations have abandoned their gods now for a God called Allah. Whereas Israel is still walking in the name of its ancestral God, even though they don't use that name. Now, they don't use that name because he has not yet returned and restored them to himself. In other words, they feel the sense of estrangement from him. But is it plain from 6 and 7 who these people are?
Yeah.
Those who have been gathered and even afflicted by Yahweh for, we now know, 26 centuries.
Yeah.
I'll make them a remnant. And where will God reign over them? Is it on heavenly Zion?
No, in Mount Zion.
From this time forth and forevermore. So the earthly kingdom is the true kingdom, not the kingdom that Jehovah's Witnesses are preaching. The true kingdom is here.
Yeah.
And it tells you that it tells you in verse 8 explicitly when it says, O you, O tower of the flock, literally in Hebrew, MIGDAL EDER, hill of the daughter of Zion, for to you it shall come, to Zion, to Jerusalem, the former dominion shall come, kingship for the daughter of Jerusalem. So here's the end of the Gentile times.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this completely undermines the Watchtower view of the kingdom. Why are you hiding this? I'm tempted to call it, this is a Christmas present for Jehovah's Witnesses, because this has everything to do with the birth of Messiah in Bethlehem. As we get to the next chapter, we see that clearly too. Here's how the ESV renders the fulfillment of this Tower of the Flock Zion prophecy. And you don't understand the MIGDAL EDER till we get to the end, so don't forget to remind me to talk about that some more. It says in the ESV in chapter 5, "Now muster your troops, O daughter of troops. Siege is laid against us. With a rod they strike the judge of Israel on the cheek. But you, O Bethlehem Ephrathah, who are too little to be among the clans of Judah, from you shall come forth for me the one who is to be ruler in Israel." Does it say that in there too?
Yeah, the one to be ruler in Israel.
In other words, the King of the Jews, ruling among the Jews, whose coming forth is from of old, from ancient days. So he's not just a human being, this king. "Therefore he shall give them up." Who shall give them up? Yahweh shall give them up until the time when she who is in labor has given birth. Here you're reminded, of course, of the last chapter of Isaiah, where we read of a woman giving birth to a nation in one day. When she who is in labor has given birth, Revelation 12 as well, the woman arrayed with the sun, moon, and stars, etc. Then the rest of his brothers shall return to the people of Israel. And he shall stand and shepherd his flock in the strength of Yahweh, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God, and they shall be secure, or dwell secure. For now he shall be great, the shepherd shall be great to the ends of the earth, and he shall be their peace.
Yeah,
so the peace of the earth,
bring peace.
The peace of the peace that the Jews have been looking for all these centuries, the security they've been looking for, that they have never found in their wanderings, and even now back in the land, they will find one day, and all the nations will find peace too, but only when the Prince of Peace is here, in the name of Yahweh. In other words, bearing the name Yahweh, and that's where MIGDAL EDER comes in. Why is this being hidden from the eyes of Jehovah's Witnesses? The tower that's mentioned here, the tower, the Watchtower, what's that about? It's a tower where the flocks of Israel, year-round, were watched by the shepherds
because there were
of Bethlehem.
sacrificial lambs, right?
Because the lambs that were being nurtured there year-round, that they would need for temple worship twice a day, all year-round, every year, were being nurtured there a few miles away from Jerusalem. Now, of course, you have to hide that, because your scandal about Christmas is always...
Oh, they wouldn't be outside.
They wouldn't be outside
because
it's just, well, no, that's... So what we're going to attach at the end of this is a refutation of that idea by no less than Alfred Edersheim, the greatest Jewish Christian expert on how Jews did things in those days. So we want to attach that for you. But again, for me, the essence of this, the gist of this, is that you don't really understand the kingdom until you understand the connection between what we've just said, the passage of Gentile times, a scattering of the Jews all over the earth, and a remnant of them returning to the mighty God in the last days. So our link is Alfred Edersheim, a portion of his book, The Life and Times of Jesus the Messiah, where he talks about the connection between the birth of the child in Bethlehem and the lamb sacrifice that were raised in that place just a few miles down the road near Bethlehem. See you next time.
Bye.